called the Mojave Manta. You know, there's these big manta rays that swim around in the oceans, and I'm like, I just keep seeing like schools of manta just skipping across the surface of the desert on a really hot day. And I think this would work in any desert, you know, the Arabian desert, so this would be the Arabian manta, it could be a lot of different things. So anywhere where there's desert and lots of sun and lots of dunes, even down on the California coast there, we got a couple like places, you know, down in the Baja, it'd be kind of fun to have one of these. And anywhere where you have like tons of sun, you could have a Mojave Manta, which is pretty cool. I gotta think, you know, like, why haven't I seen this before? Why haven't I seen a Mojave Manta out there? And the reason why is because it takes a few, like, technologies. You gotta put them all together, balance them out, so you can have a Mojave Manta. And in this case, you know, I got a lot of ideas in this one. This is like a work of art. This is definitely a work of art. It certainly is something that I think the world needs, because you could have 100% solar powered, like, travel across like endless stretches of desert and just keep going and just be hopping them dunes, vroom, 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 vroom. And it's gonna, of course, not make the vroom noise. Well, it might, I don't know. It'll make a whoo, whoo, whoo sound. and either way, it'd be fun to fly. And, you know, with just a few modifications, this is the one-seater. A few modifications, this could be adapted for not only recreational, but, you know, military use too. So, I mean, the Mojave Manta has it all. And the big thing is these things just sit out in the sun and wait for you to fly them. And ride them around, and you're going to want to too. I think that the idea is a combination of a whole bunch of different things. So let's just start talking about it. I don't have all day, and I don't have all your attention all day to be able to be dealing with this. So let's look at some of the features of the Mojave Manta. First thing, you have a very large solar array, 10 to 20 kilowatts. Why do you need that? Well, you need to be able to produce that and then store it in the battery ring so you can power the 400 horsepower in-hub wheel motor that drives this thing. That's what I'm thinking. About 400 horsepower should pull this thing around. You could go higher. I mean, there's bigger ones, of course, and these are 400 horsepower is pretty much readily available on the market right now. You could be able to get one of those, no problem. Next thing I got a giant shock absorber inside this extendable telescoping extendable drive, and this uses extendable drive wheels, little motors, and these are fluid head gearboxes, and that's for jumping. So you have, not only do you have the giant shock absorber with the housing around it, but you also have these extend drive wheels. And this head, where the motor actually sits, pivots. There's a big pinion, big pivot there with dual struts that allow it to take up all that really nasty damage, you know, like when you're going along. So you can see this thing flying along, and you have these secondary shorter throw shock absorbers on a big tooth there. And this whole assembly can be retracted back up into the fuselage, and then of course when it retracts back, then you've got a front wheel here that'll extend down. I don't know. I think maybe we'll have it like pop down, and then we got dual wheels in the back that'll pop down or be retracted. You can put those at any position as well. And I haven't really gone into like extensive detail on how we do that. You know, back in the old days in the bombers, they put these on like kind of like a flexible spring steel, and that might be what we'll do is we'll use a flexible spring steel to extend that. You know, like just, you know, retract, ding, you know, and it kind of like, it just kind of balances the back end anyways. You got two of them, one on either side, two wheels on the back, one big wheel in the front, and of course the primary drive wheel underneath the solar arrays. Now, I'm opting for air-cooled battery systems, but it might be a combination of water-cool and air-cool. You can probably get away with air cooling though, I don't know. You should be able to. And either way, you could have radiators that cool off the separate battery packs internally, you know, along the channel. And of course, you just let your hot air go out right here over your ailerons, and that would allow you to have additional control as well. I want to use a dual motor. There's a motor on either side and two big pinion gears that allow this big old drive assembly to come down and maintain control. I also have to pull it back and keep it there. I also have a winch, so these things work in conjunction with each other. And you know, the primary thing, of course, is the fun, and you can't have fun unless you can really go. And this thing's a hopper, and you got to be able to go. After you get going, you want to keep going, right? So what I want to do is I want to have retractable thin film solar streamers that extend off of roll-up back extenders on the back. So it's going to have like streamers behind it that are solar streamers that also power the system. And they'll, you know, they can be separately fused and feed specific packs or go into a primary charge controller that charges the entire array. The electronics housings sit up in here, so this is a capsule. I want to do like a roll cage kind of construction for the frame. The whole frame would be tube frame for the entire thing underneath. I didn't want to draw it all out because it's whatever. This is not the right format to do that. I could do it in CAD, I guess. I also wanted to have a controllable, steerable nose fin aileron. So as the air rushes over, I can point it left and right, and that works in conjunction with the ailerons in the back to be able to go up, down, left, right. You know, you'll have physical control. I'm thinking like old school cable control. So, you know, even if you have a power outage, you know, you can have some control. I think there's no problem in having power on this thing, though. I mean, technically we could do it without cable control. I was just thinking cable control would be kind of nice. Don't have to do that, though. I mean, if we had cable control, then we'd have cables that extend out from here, out to here, and so on and so forth, like an old biplane. However, you don't have to go with that. It just seemed like, you know, if you wanted control of this vehicle, you know, left, right, up, down, you would probably want to have that feedback. The cable feedback is just really nice, and the old biplanes, you know, they still work. That technology hasn't gone anywhere. It's still flying today. So cable control of elevator and aileron surfaces is still a really good thing with pulleys, and the cable strengths nowadays are just really nice. And so I'd probably go with cable control. For the steering wheel itself, I'd probably want to go with like a rack and pinion and just be able to steer it like a normal tire up there. Of course, it's going to be a little bit probably bigger than that and hang down a little bit further, but I just didn't want to redraw it. And then, of course, you've got your aileron, which would be linked into that system, too. And that would be a direct drive shaft with, you know, gears and little drive shafts, little control shafts. Anyways, so inlet cooling, we got air for the batteries and for the cabin. So we're going to use, since we have all this power and all these batteries, why not have a really nice cooling system? Now, we're going to be dealing with 130 degrees, 150 degrees plus. I mean, it's going to be super hot. And you're going to want to be able to get into your Mojave Manta without, like, frying yourself. So I think that a combination, I would like to do thermoelectrics because we have so much battery and so much electrical. And of course, thermoelectrics don't have any moving parts, so you don't have to worry about the jarring motion of this thing jumping. So I want it to be able to hop. It's a solar Dune hopper, so I want it to be able to hop. That's the whole point of having this giant shock absorber / retractable array. This thing, you know, it's you hit the ground, and you need to be able to have that torque. You need to be able to have that super wheel motor electric torque to be able to just go up those dunes and then you launch off the top. And then, of course, this shape right here is inducive to having the glider, which is really nice, and the streamers will actually help stabilize the thing while it's in flight. So it might be a good idea. Let's go ahead and kick it up a notch, and let's add some secondary thrusters, which would be easy to add to this design. So let's go ahead and add some secondary thrusters right here, and that'll give you some secondary thrust, which would be powered, of course, electric thrusters. You can put them here. I think up on top is going to be better because it'll keep the dust out of them and whatnot. And these would just be standard thrusters. And they've got some pretty cool ones right now that are available. You just stick those up on top, 2 of them. So that's going to give you your thrust that would make it so you could go even further, faster. And this huge, I mean, did I draw it oversized? Perhaps. But, you know, this is going to house a huge shock absorber. So it's basically just a big hollow set of tubes that slide in and out each other. And it doesn't really have to completely slide, it just has to slide a little bit, because this whole thing can probably just scoop right up underneath there. And that's retractable for when you're hopping. Now you could use this to kind of have a dual use thing, like it comes down to the ground, you can hop it, or in case, or you can also use these electric turbofans, which would be fine too. I mean, I think a combination of the two. I think if you program that right, you can make it so that they would provide thrust, and this would be very similar to the configuration of the A10 Warthog. If you're familiar with that, you could have an A10 Warthog kind of configuration. We have dual motors and dual risers in the back. This is a little bit different. It's designed to be, this is your main, this is your mass, so it's not gonna, the only thing I could say is you'd have to maintain your angles properly. You know, you want to keep it kind of like that as you're using it. And you know, just keep going forward really fast in that direction. So I don't know, it's kind of a fun little design. I mean, you don't have to put these additional engines on there. If you wanted to, eventually you could probably just delete this whole thing and just use those engines if they're efficient enough and they push hard enough. But I just thought it'd be fun to have a solar dune hopper, call it the Mojave, and take it out there and just keep going. I mean, it's kind of hard to maintain flight, so as opposed to trying to create a structure that could maintain flight, although this is very close to what you would need in this particular design to maintain flight. You have a huge lifting surface. The whole bottom of the aircraft would be a lifting surface, and then of course you have your control surfaces in the tail end, so you'd have lots of ability to dig and stuff like that. So let's just go over some of the main features. Admittedly, we just added turbofans to it. That'd be fun too. We got a winch for retracting this thing, and I think maybe the dune hopper would be even more fun with the turbofans and the dune hopper motor. So you could dig out there and just, man, it'd be fun. It would just be so much fun. And that's what I was saying. You don't. These are not as much fun. Digging through the air can be fun, I guess. I mean, you're flying, yay. But if your vehicle is not technically an airplane, it's not designed to maintain flight, only to do short hops, you can get past your FAA certifications. You don't need to worry about any of that. It's a ground vehicle. It just hops. So short hops, you know, I'm not sure how short that would be. Maybe a Wright Brothers kind of flight where you get a couple hundred yards or whatever each time you hop, but it wouldn't be technically considered a vehicle of flight. It'd be considered a vehicle of hopping. You know, it's a ground vehicle. It's not an air vehicle. So I mean, if we add those two there, you know, you could make it a flyable vehicle, you know. But I think the idea is the recreational side of it, where you just have this big beefy in-hub wheel motor and this huge shock absorber that you're just basically riding this huge shock absorber around, which is pretty darn cool. Is it the most dangerous vehicle ever designed? It might be. We can even title it the most dangerous vehicle ever designed. Of course, that would be the unicycle. But this is kind of like that. You've got a uniwheel, and that's your primary drive, and you're going to use a uniwheel plus a glide. That's what this is over here, uniwheel plus a glide. So as you're going along, you just, man, it would be fun. And what's nice is you get these extra streamers, extra solars. That's the thin film. It's like stainless steel thin film. That's well, it's kind of iridescent like this. It's purple, and you pull those, you extend those after you get going off the ground, of course, and extend those, and it will give you additional range. And that would be the same for any of your flight vehicles as well. Would be these extendable streamers. So I think either way. Now, there's going to be a limit to how long you could make these and how long they would last. I think the thin film doesn't come off, and it's stainless steel. It's very, very thin, and it produces power. So I think it's nice to have the optional idea of having these retractable thin film solar streamers that drag behind the craft. They also help stabilize. You could extend them at different lengths, and you'd have stable flight as well. So if you eventually wanted to expand upon this idea here, you could could put larger turbofans on this thing and literally make it fly. And I think that would be super cool too. So I call it the Mojave Manta Solar Dune Hopper. It's kind of modeled after a manta ray or one of those big giant fish that I've seen swimming through the sea. Got this nose aileron, kind of borrowed that from the dinosaurs. And this whole configuration in the back is similar to what they used on the Warthog. You had a dual, but I'm kind of like a different pitch and angle. I wanted to provide lift as well as being able to turn left and right and whatnot. I think the nose aileron will help do that. It'll help dig around like that, and we may have to make that bigger on the nose, so we're really going the different direction. But I know just a little tiny bit, if you jack that thing left or right, you're gonna take, if you're up on a post and you take your nose and you it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be one of the coolest things to go over the dunes. You're just like, dong, 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 dong. And you could program in automated assistance for the ailerons and the elevators so that you don't go too far. Or if the craft tips over too much, you're going to get alarms and it just won't let you go that far. I mean, if you're still attached to the ground. This can all be lightweight aluminum. All of it can be lightweight extruded aluminum or machined aluminum, except for the pinion gears. And the pinion gears themselves, I would say, I show it hanging down right here. So, instead of having this wheel here, we may want to put it here. That actually makes more sense. Let's go ahead and take it off of the inlet, and because I need to bring a bunch of air in there anyways. I don't know though. If we had it so it extended down, okay, so this wheel is going to have to come down. It's going to have to extend down and be like lower than. But I can work that out. That's just a pivot, pivot plate. So I guess it stores up when you're in flight, and then it comes down when you land. And that's you're gonna have to have like a lazy Susan and stuff like that, record pinion. Yeah, that can be something I work out later. In the meantime, though, I wanted to just kind of get this design out there because it's something I've been thinking about for 35 years or so, and I always wanted to see one. I always wanted to see what a dune hopper, and just riding around in this huge shock, and you're able to just dig into the sand. It's going to be super fun. And who knows? Maybe if I can retract this enough, I wouldn't even need that front wheel. And then, matter of fact, we'll just delete it now. Well, actually, I guess because you don't want to. This is just a straight ahead thing, and you're gonna want to have to turn. I don't know. This is not a ground vehicle, though. Really, I mean, it is, but it isn't. I don't know. Let's just go backwards a little bit, and we'll just put our wheel back up here, and I don't know. We'll just deal with that. I guess. I don't know. Let's just think about it a little bit, and the wheel only needs to extend further than this retracted assembly. And this whole assembly could technically retract to where this is flat, so all you need is something sticking down a little bit. Anyways, wouldn't it be fun to be carving up some sand with this thing? And, I want to put a special note and a special message out to you people who do live in the desert and have way too much money. Why don't we build some of these? These would be cool. I mean, I've never seen one before, and it's one of those things. Why don't we make something cool like this? This is like Star Wars looking thing. It's gonna be cool. I think it's gonna be hot. Is what it's gonna be. Now, admittedly, let's say you wanted to make a multi-seater. Well, you can extend this out, of course. Extend that out. Would you want to make it any wider? I don't know if you need to make it wider, but you could extend it like for tandem seating. Just extend this middle area that way, and you could have like six or even 8 people riding, because this be like a big. Be cool. Just make it longer. This is kind of like the sports car version, whereas you can make them longer. And if you made them longer, all it would do is have a longer gliding surface and more solar. So you could easily fit 10 to 20 kilowatts worth of solar, probably 10 per side, no problem. And of course, if you extend it longer, like a limousine version, then of course you can make it much more powerful. And you know, this type of thing, what's nice about buying a vehicle like this and having that much solar power is you can plug this thing into your palace, into your castle, into your house, into your workshop. It can power everything remotely. And when you leave, well, you take the power with you. If you move from place to place, you still got your power. The electronics for the conversion from solar electric to industrial electric is simple. The same can be said for the conversion of solar into residential electrical. Very simple, very simple. Everything's off the shelf. Very easy. Even these in-hub wheel motors, they're available. They're industrial. They're big. You don't have to. Pretty much everything on here except for the central shock absorber here is a combination of things you can buy off the shelf. These turbofans you can buy off the shelf. There's all kinds of things. I mean, would you want to go that fast? Well, yeah, you think about it, right? If you can go like a couple 100 miles an hour over the sand dunes, you're going to need a giant shock absorber. And you know, this is going to be close enough to the ground for ground effect. You're going to have a ground effect cushion that's going to form as you go, and you're going to be able to push this whole rear end here. Since it's front weight on that, you get your weight is all central, or I should say all shifted forward. This back end just rides on this big cushion of air, so it's going to be super comfy to fly this thing along sand dunes for an extended period of time. And what's nice about this, as opposed to, say, 5,000 camels, roughly, is about the price of one of these things. You know, 5,000 camels, yeah, you can get from one place to another, and it's kind of a smooth ride, but it's really slow and it's not as much fun. I think that, you know, something like this is going to be, well, you know, if I had a herd of, say, 40,000 camels and I wanted to sell 5,000 of them and build one of these, it's kind of a trade-off, but man, I mean, the bragging rights. Where'd you go today? Oh, yeah, wherever you want to go. You don't run out of gas with this thing, ever. Just the sun, you know. You live in the desert, you have endless fun. Endless fun in the sun. That's this thing, and it's the Mojave Manta Solar Dune Hopper. And I'm just kind of giving it out. Here you go. Make one of these. There's so many scientific principles and technologies that I've put into this thing for you, my viewers. So let's make some of these. I hope somebody makes one soon and sends me a video and say, oh, or gives me a call or gives me a message. Message me. You want to build one of these? Let's do it. It's not that hard to go into the CAD that it would take to do this. This is fun. It's energetic. It's one of those things that I would love to see. And then, you know, you got one, and then it's a great product. I think it's a great product. I mean, you can see that there's a reason why this big shock absorber is so beefy. Because, you know, the dunes, it's just like a pounding on the suspension systems. You need to have struts. You need to have some spring. And this one uses a big giant. You can barely see it in there, but there's a giant shock absorber inside this assembly. And it goes down and hits this main pinion gear right here. This big pin, big giant pin on the bottom. So it's anchored into the main pivot point, and that's going to take up all that nasty vibration. Of course, you got this thing. It can go back and forth like this. All that's not translated directly into the fuselage, so you don't shake apart your stuff. Now, most of your solar systems, especially your photovoltaic cells, they need to be mounted to a rigid frame, which is part of the reason why I chose this like a turtle shell. Turtle shells are extremely strong, and you know, they don't crush very easily, they don't distort. You know, there's a reason why I chose that. It's a turtle shell, and in combination with the Manta, combination with I mean, honestly, we could have called this the solar turtle, but turtles don't go very fast, and who would want to have a solar turtle? I don't know. I just maybe, you know, but this is you know, kind of a turtle shell design, so it's rigid, and that's the problem with typical photovoltaics. They don't like to bend. The cells themselves crack super easy if you bend them. So it has to be an absolutely rigid fuselage that can withstand. You know, we're gonna have a bottom on this thing that's gonna make it so that it's just this really super rigid. It's gonna be like a big air sword or something. It's not gonna bend like hardly at all, if at all. I don't think so. You're gonna have some vibrations here. That's gonna be taken out by this, and that's your radiant point for the vibration. So as a driver of this thing, you're going to be at the center of balance and the center of mass, essentially. Primarily the center of balance, because it may not exactly be. The mass is shifted forward, and it's always going to kind of be like this when it's in flight a little bit. Now this would be, you can see, versus the ground, you see I've tilted it back. This would be like the maximum. You wouldn't, I mean, you could go that way, since you have ailerons and elevators. But I don't think you want to dip this thing too far forward. You want to have, your mass has got to be, your rear mass behind this has to be enough mass to keep it from just nosing over all the time when you're in motion. But then again, this thing's going to be going like that, so it's going to try to pull you forward like that. So. And who knows, maybe this thing will sit, like when it's on the ground and it's parked, it might sit up like this, and then when you go, it just kind of levels out a little bit. Either way, the Mojave Manta. Wow! What a cool design! We should totally build this thing. Come on. Message. Let's go. Either way, I hope you liked the video. Thumb it a like. Watch my videos. There's just going to be all these cool things that just kind of stream out of me here as time goes on. And we'll try to keep pushing the future into your computer and into this little marble we call Earth. And in particular, we're talking about some solar fun in the desert sun. Anyways, I'm Zeo205IQ. This is the Mojave Manta. It even has a cool name, right? So let's make one. Let's make one, and it'd be awesome. Just it's gonna be super fun. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thumb it a like. Tell your friends. Subscribe. I mean, you got somebody who loves desert vehicles. This is the next one. This is the one that the technology's there. It's not that hard to build one of these. So I hope we do soon, so we can go play in the desert. It's hot, but it's fun. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you later. Bye now.